Let's take a look at some information and charts on Ravencoin for Ravencoin. So I haven't talked about Ravencoin in quite a while, and if it isn't obvious because I'm talking about ETC and waves, that I kind of just need stuff that I haven't talked about in a while to talk about, so we're talking about Raven. I really didn't have any idea that the price is where it is, but it's pretty interesting considering some of the on-chain metrics. Anyway, so Ravencoin, proof of work chain, it is a code fork of Bitcoin, blah, 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 blah. So it's a proof of work Bitcoin code fork. Ultimately, all you really need to know at a baseline. And they launched in 2019, I believe. And here they are saying they haven't had a halving yet, implying that price should be more bullish than it is. But let's take a look. According to them, how are they different than Bitcoin? Block rewards different. 1 minute block times, 21 billion total coin supply, cow pow mining algorithm. They have some colored coin, NFT, smart contract capabilities, and it looks like they have governance potentially coming in the future. Again, just a baseline cursory. This is what this network is capable of. Looking at ravencoin.network, the website, you can see the total coin distribution. Again, there hasn't been a halving yet, so that's pretty evident here. And I guess the linear distribution that has occurred. Transaction counts are up pretty significantly, honestly, since May 2020. Over the past year, this is basically a new yearly high relative to where transactions have been. So it looks like something's going on, right, in the on-chain stats at the very least. Fees also on a rising trend. This is daily average fees paid to miners, still below $1, so way below BTC or ETH fees, obviously. Fees peaked in February 2021, interestingly enough, at least on that day. And usually fee increases are bullish, which is kind of weird, but it just means that, hey, people are here and they're using the chain, right? So look at the fee increases on BTC, look at the fee increases on ETH and what it's told you about DeFi, and the rises in fees will start to make a little more sense. Sometimes it's a scalability issue like ETH. Sometimes it's more than just someone's using the network like BTC in 2017. It was a spam attack or whatever, but on balance, rising fees are bullish for price typically. Difficulty, this is mining. Difficulty had been way down since May and has slowly started to creep up again. Hash rate as well, also creeping up again. They have 1 minute block times as opposed to 10, like I already said, so their difficulty adjustments are a little different than BTC's difficulty adjustments. If we look at blocks and just like the miners, I don't like this visualization, but are the miners decentralized? Is the proof of work decentralized? Most of these top pools are unknown, which means some of these may be the same people or the same players. Just keep that in mind. So this may look more decentralized than it is, not really sure. But let's say all of these are independent miners, then this is exactly what you want to see. You want to see several different entities controlling a majority of the hash rate. You'd never want to see any potential for a 51% attack, especially on a relatively unknown algorithm, mining consensus algorithm. So that's something to keep in mind for these smaller proof of work networks, that they're a bit more fragile in the security realm than BTC is, for example. I mean, just look at ETC and what it had to do to become less difficult to 51% attack. So just keep that in mind. And if we switch to Raven USD technicals, since January, you had a bullish 5200 cross, really the first bullish cross since forever, since inception. You could argue there was maybe a bullish cross here that went nowhere. But if you trust the signals and you trade the signals and you say, okay, I'm getting ready for a cross here, it didn't happen. I traded this cross here and I got stopped out. Here, you're thinking to yourself, okay, this is why I trade this cross, because it doesn't always explode, but when it does, it pays for it the times that it doesn't, right? So it's gone from basically 2 cents to 16 cents. So that's an 8x since January. And since then, it's found an interim top, at least, attempted a mean reversion, and looks like it's figuring out whether or not it's accumulation or distribution here. Not a ton of VPVR support until sub 8 cents, so 50% plus drawdown potentially here. Anytime you see this, it's basically a giant gap in price. You can think of it as a literal gap in price on legacy markets, or in crypto markets, you can think of it as there's just no volume support here, no trading history. Everyone's going to be looking at this for support if this crumbles. They're going to be looking at the 200-day moving average, and they're going to be looking at the previous all-time high in 2019. So for me, if I'm looking to get into a trade up here, I'd be waiting for that mean reversion to at least 10 cents probably before thinking about getting in up here, because this just looks like a move that I missed at this point if I was trading this. Ultimately, the biggest support is back to 2 cents, basically back to where it came from in January. Looking at the cloud told you to open along in February, basically. And again, if you look at the differences here between 2020, mid-2020, when there was decent evidence that this would break up and didn't, versus now, where this goes post-signal doesn't really matter, because the idea is, again, if the signals are valid over time, then you getting stopped out 5 to 10% versus holding an 8x up here, this tells you to get out. So you get in here and you're getting out either a week or two ago, or you're using stop losses on lower time frames. But nevertheless, this trend is always what you're looking for. Something super quick. If you're an altcoin trader, for me, for example, again, talking about me, if I want to get into an alt, I want something that's explosive and quick, that is a no-doubter, and then something that I can easily get out of. This gave you plenty of time to get out of it, should you have wanted to, and still looks fine to get out of at the highs. It's kind of like Doge. Doge exploded and just held the level, and currently is pushing all-time highs. A bit bizarre, considering you usually don't see penny stocks, essentially what these are, basically rise up like this and then give anybody a chance to get out. So what I'm basically saying is, if you want your 8x plus, you can take it right now. It's right here for the taking, right? Now, it depends on volume and liquidity, but trend-wise, this looks neutral on the daily cloud. It's inside the cloud, bearish TK cross. If you were looking for a long re-entry, you'd be waiting for price above the cloud with a bullish TK cross. Again, if it were me and it was up 8x, I'd say okay. Or whatever this is, 9x, I don't know. I'd say, all right, that's good enough, right? At some point, you just got to take your money and move on to the next trade. And if anything, this looks like partial rotation trades into alts in what was in January, partial just integer bias, anything that was sub 2 cents, sub 10 cents. Look at Doge again, lots of comparisons there with how Doge has reacted sub $1, right? It's very attractive for newer people, especially, who say, I can buy 10,000 Doge, 100,000 Ravencoin versus 0.01 BTC. That's just how it works with the retail traders. So overall, this still looks fine, even though it's up a crazy amount since January. Raven BTC, I had some old TA stuff on here, so it looks like I had talked about it, I guess, in February for BNC in a TA video, but previously it had this really strong support that broke, had its massive bear trend throughout the entirety of 2020, established a bullish divergence. This is always the golden ticket for reversal on altcoins. You want to look for this multi-month bullish divergence where you get a lower low in price and a higher high in some oscillator, in this case the RSI. So great, we broke above the cloud in February. That was your go long signal. Again, like the USD pair, it's telling you it's neutral, it's inside of the cloud, it's back in this previous consolidation area, tons of VPVR stuff going on here. And if you're looking for a long re-entry, you're looking for price above the cloud with a bullish TK cross. But it's still surprising that you even can get an opportunity to get out at what is nearly a 6x at this point on a BTC pair. That's a gift, in my opinion, on a thinly traded altcoin. And then lastly, just looking at Raven versus ETH, it had basically since inception a massive bearish trend, broke up briefly in January. So it beat ETH in January, February. And since then, this is what you typically see, where you get this massive rise up and then this sell off, right? You don't really get much of an opportunity to get out, even though here you still do. You get several days that tell you, okay, momentum is stalling, we go neutral, and then we go bearish when we close below the cloud. Now we're even below the 200-day moving average on the daily. So even though Raven ETH may not be a direct pair that you can trade, it's always worth checking out because there's an opportunity cost, right? If you're not long ETH, you're short ETH, right? If you're not holding ETH, you're not long ETH. So you're long Raven, you're short ETH. That's the way to think about this. The same thing with the BTC pair. So this still looks bearish, and it looks like it's setting up for a bullish divergence on some sort of lower low here. But trends like this and trends like this typically reverse quicker than these multi-year trends, right? Like this is just clearly slow bleed over 2 years. That's going to take some time to reverse. Stuff that pops up 6x with 10x, whatever it is, reverses rather quickly. So that's all for this one. You can check out how I'm trading ETH and BTC, as well as a variety of DeFi coins on Enzyme.finance. There will be a link in the video description below. This is a non-custodial portfolio management tool, completely transparent. You can see all of the trades, AUM, performance, allocations, what I do, where and when, all done through DEXs. I have the ability to go short as well through synthetics using inverse products, basically longing the downside. And if you want to participate, you can deposit ETH or BTC, ETH or USDC. And if you just want to watch what I'm doing, you can check that out as well. That's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.